Alright, so let's move into adding new blocks. And the first block I'm going to add is a cheese block. We saw an asset for it earlier, but we're going to kind of use that as a logical extension of this. So when I should be able to place a block into the world now that will represent cheese. I don't think that's the best texture, but I think it gets the work done. As we looked at in class, at least going over the slides, we're going to need to create a mod blocks to go along with something like mod items. In fact, we'll do it right here inside of init. I'll say give me a new class. So once again, I highlighted init or whatever package you have mod items in, and I'll just create a mod blocks. And these are the blocks that are going to be associated with this mod. Doesn't need to have a superclass or an interface for us, so we can go ahead and finish this, and we get a generic class here. Now I will want to set this up as an event bus subscriber. So I say @mod dot, and it's a little confused about what this mod is. And let's no, come on. Let's try this. Will you? Alright, so it's going to need a little bit more here. Event bus subscriber. And then we're going to put in some empty parentheses. And at this point, maybe it will let me do the import. So there will let me do the import. And I will need to put in here the mod ID equals reference dot mod ID. Now, the other benefit to using these reference strings, as you saw last time, I needed to change the mod name because it had an underscore in it. I did it in one place and reran Minecraft. I got an error message saying, hey, you know, something's in the registry. I don't know about it. Should I delete it? Went ahead and deleted it. Everything was good. So that's kind of what we're going to do here. Now, I'm going to do something similar to what we did with mod items and say I want a static list of blocks, whatever a block is. Now I don't know if it knows what a block is yet, and I'll call it blocks equals new array list. Oops, and I like typing everything with tagging everything with type. So now we're going to need to do the import. So I'll come over here, highlight this, and say I want this as java.util. And block, you can import that as a net.minecraft block. Array list is one in Java util, and that should take care of those import issues there. Now, I'm going to next create some blocks. I'll do that in a little bit underneath here, and I'll have them automatically add themselves as a list, just like you did with items. So this means that while I had an item base that we used earlier, I'm going to want to create a block base. And so I'm going to create a blocks package underneath my mod, just like I have items. Okay, so new package, and this one here is going to be called .blocks. Okay, inside that package here, where did so my mod blocks went into init? That's fine. And then from here, I'll just create a new class. And this is going to be my block-based class. Okay, so now block-based class is going to be an extension of block-base. Let's type that in. This is going to have a superclass of items. Okay, so I'm sorry, a block. So the block is going to be the net.minecraft.block. So we'll go ahead and extend that. And I'll also want to add an interface, and that's the iHas model. If you do not have that under matching items, this is just previous interfaces that we've used. You just have to just type in iHas up here, and it'll search the project for that interface. But since I have it here, go ahead and add that, and then click OK. And we'll see that the form has been filled out with the interface and the superclass of block. Inherited static, inherited abstract. I'm not sure if it's going to have those. Yes, it does. Register models. See, I might have forgotten to put that in. So it has done that for me. Very good. Okay, block base says we have no constructor. Well, let's just add that in now. Okay, so I'll have a public block base. Base has a, make sure I get the spelling the same. It's going to take the string name of the block. It's also going to take something called the material, what the block is made out of. This material is really just a set of rules, if you will, on what type of properties the block is going to have. So let's talk about what that means. Let me bring my Chrome browser over here, and we'll just open up a new one here, and I want to say Minecraft material. And first thing we probably are going to look at here is the materials thing from the official Minecraft wiki, and we can see some of the material names, and they'll have properties, liquid color, does it generate light, does it block movement. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that defines what a block can do. This is really rather than having us change all of these things individually, they've predefined a number of materials. Could we make our own materials? Probably. I'm not really going to do that today. I'm just going to use one of the predefined materials. But it is important to note that the block superclass is going to want to have the material. Okay, so the block constructor takes a material. Now it's going, oh, I don't know what a material is, so we'll come back over here, hover over it, and import the one from Minecraft material, and that's fine here. I want a name for my block here. Let me check to see how I did this for item base. Do I still have that up on the screen here? I do. And I put the name down at the bottom. So I'll do the same thing here. Same reasoning behind this. Protected string name. Okay, so we can extract the name of the block later. This dot name equals name. So I can save the name into the class variable. And then I'm going to want to do some things that we've done before. I want to say set unlocalized name. Oops. Name. And I'll also want to set the registry name. These are just things we have to do all the time, and easy to forget. I'm going to say set creative tabs dot, and this time I'm going to put it in building blocks for right now. That's a pretty generic thing. And then I want to say mod blocks dot, and we see our blocks array right there. And I'll say add, and then this. So that will insert it into the list of blocks that's maintained. Now, here's something we talked about in class that we went over the slides, and that is that every time we have a block, I shouldn't say every time, some blocks are just going to exist out in the world. Air is a good example of that. They're air blocks. There are blocks for I'm trying to think what some of the blocks are that you can't pick up. There are a number of blocks that you can't pick up. So in those cases, it's fine just to stop at this point. But if you do ever want to be able to pick up a block and treat it as an item in your inventory, then we're going to need to be able to create an item based on that. So let me just save this really quickly here. And let me just bring in, really, mod blocks. Oh, because mod blocks hasn't been saved. That's its reason for that. Okay, now it's happy, no errors. If I want to create an item automatically, well, okay, let's explain why I want to do this. Certain blocks are going to exist in the world, and they can be interacted with, like dirt and stuff like that. You can pick them up, carry them around. Some block types, like air, are not something I can pick up, or the I'm trying to think of some of the other items that you can't pick up, but that's not terribly important right now. If I want to pick something up, I'm going to need to be able to have an item form block. Minecraft already has that class for us, so we can just create one of those right now. That's something called an item block, and it's going to say, huh, what's that? And then all right, let me just and see if you're okay. Now it'll import it. net.minecraft.item is its type there. So this is a special type of block that is created. I'm sorry, special type of item that's created from a block. And so I will just call its instructor here, new item block. And if I look at the instructors, let's see, it wants a block. So null is not the item that I would have chose. I would have said this. This is the name of the block that we're constructing. So now this will create a special item block out of this. I'm going to also need to say item block dot. This is the lowercase I. This is the name of the variable. And I want to set the registry name for it. And this dot get registry name. I just set the registry name up above there. I could use name again, but I am intentionally choosing to go and load the registry name out of there just in case something weird were to happen in my code where I mess with name or something like that. I want to ensure that the registry name for my item block matches the net registry name for my block just to make things easier on that. And now I can just add this to mod items dot items, and we will just add the item block. Okay, so now that's going to mean that anytime I create a block, I have to give it a name, whatever I choose to call it, my unlocalized name, and I'll give it a material, which just defines the properties that the block is going to have in the world. It's gravity affect it and stuff like that, kind of piston move it. And then once I give it that information, it'll go ahead and register itself, and then it will create an item block for it and register that. So everything will happen automatically for us. I also want to register the models for this block. You notice that the I has model up here implies that we need to have this method down here to do registering. How do I register it? First of all, I want to get the item block out of here because I'm registering I'm going to be registering an item renderer for it. So I'll say now what's this? This is going to be a block. So I want to use the item class, and then there's a function here, get item from block, and then I can just say this. This is the name of the block. Now this will go and pull out the item block that corresponds to my item. All right, that's good. And then I'm going to say what's the name of my main class here. I think unfortunately it changes between the video and what I do in class. Sorry if that's confusing, but I think it underscores the fact that your mod name can be whatever you want it to be. So I think I call it CIS 452 mod here. I call it my mod in class. Mod dot, and then I can just call through the proxy and say this is something I want the proxy to do. Obviously only the client is going to need to register a model, but rather than my having to annotate this line and say please only execute this on the client, I'm just going to go through the proxy and say register the item renderer. The server will do nothing, the client will do what it needs to do. The item block is the item that we're doing. The metadata, we're just going to put in 0. There is no need for metadata for my little item block, and the name is going to be inventory. Okay, so that's the name of the renderer that we're going to use. That should take care of that part right there. We have the block base, we have the mod blocks, and we could go ahead at that point and try to create a new block. So now I'm going to go back over to my blocks, and I'll say public static block equals, yeah, I'm sorry, the block is a type. This is going to be cheese block equals new block base, and it's going to be cheese block. That's the name I'm calling it, and the material dot, and then I have a number of choices that I could pick from whatever it is. Does it matter a whole lot? No, just use whatever you want to. Understand, of course, what choices you make are going to cause it to behave certain ways. Okay, so looking at some of this stuff, but we can change it again. So I'll just pick, say iron is a good one, or rock. If it works wrong, if it starts to act a little weird, then I'll come back and change the material type. Okay, I really don't care at this point. Please import block base. Okay, so this will cause the block to be created when this will cause the block. In fact, I don't know if I really need to have an event bus subscriber down here because I'm not hooking any events here. I think I may have in the past. I really don't think I need that. So we'll try it by removing this here in a second. Before I move on, the other thing I'd like to mention is that this register models down here, this is what's going to cause the item blocks JSON to be loaded. Okay, so this registration is going to cause it to go out and get the JSON. So we're going to need to make sure that JSON and any textures stuff that we create are going to be in place before we run this. So that's definitely something on our list to do. The item form here is going to be what's going to put in the inventory when we pick a block up. And also, if I drop a block in the world, it's going to use that item to be dropped there. So these are singletons that are created at the same time the block is created. So we create one block, we create the one item block for it at the same time. Now, as we last saw things here, I'm going to close out a couple of these things right now just to kind of remove some of the clutter. One of the things that we saw when we before was how important the registry handler was. This is what really kicked off a lot of things. The messages that came in from Forge early on to say, please initialize, please register your items, please register your models. We're going to want to be able to do the block registration as well for the blocks, and in addition to having the model register the item blocks. So it's important to put those registry handler changes in here because that's what's really going to kick off everything. Okay, the stuff is going to start with messages coming from Forge saying, please tell me about all the items you know about, please tell me about all the blocks you know about, and then we will go and do stuff. So we talk about, this function is going to go out and consult the JSON. Well, it's not going to if we don't put in the subscribe events, the event subscribers to handle those initial messages. So let's start with inside registry handler and add in a public static void on block register, and and now put that right underneath item register. It doesn't matter where we put it, but it just I want to draw the connection in our mind between these. It's also going to get a registry event, careful about the spelling, and it will also take and register a particular type. Now the type is going to be block. It doesn't know about block, so it didn't try to fill it in, but I'll tell it in a second. Okay, so there's my thing here. Block. Well, you can go ahead and import net.minecraft block, and that will take care of this. Now, before this is going to be called, I have to put in my subscribe event, and that annotation will cause this to be ran. I want to register all the blocks at once, just like I registered all the items at once. Event dot and I'll get the registry out of here. And this is going to be a block registry now instead of an item registry. But it'll work it'll work the same. Now it wants a list of it wants an array. I'm sorry, since I said register all, it wants an array of blocks. And so we're going to do the same thing we did before, same trick. Instead of saying mod items, I'm going to say mod blocks dot to array. And inside here, I'm going to say new block. I want an array of length 0 of type block. Okay, that looks all right. Okay, so that will cause all of the blocks to register. Next, I'm going to also want to come down here. Remember, we're on model register. We register for all the items. Let's go ahead and register the blocks too, because they'll have models. They implement the iHasModels interface. So I'll do the same type of thing here for block colon mod blocks dot blocks. So this is a for loop that iterates over an array or a list. Sorry, it's a list iterator, and it will iterate over every block in there. For the same, I'm going to do the same thing that I did for items for the same reason, and that is it's possible that I could have blocks put into that list that were not derived from for block base. I could have some sort of generic block in there. If I did that and I tried to use the interface for it, I would crash Minecraft. So I'm going to check to see. There are a couple things I could do. I could set up a try-catch block to catch the exception. I could typecast it with an as keyword. That would cause a null reference to be stored if the interface wasn't present. Or I could just check to see if it block instance of iHasModel. There's no particular reason for doing one over the other. It's whatever looks best to you. But I am going to do it to be consistent with what I did before. I don't feel it would be helpful to anyone if I changed how I did things here. And so I'll also do the iHasModel. And that's a typecast block. And I'm sorry, once I have that, I should be able to, I had mode. No wonder you can't help me out here. And now I have some things I can do here, and I want to use register models. Register models will now go and do its little thing there. So that will cause the blocks register models to be called. And as we saw, this is the blocks register models over here, which registers the item render that corresponds to that block. All right, so that means now that the that all of the necessary models are now being registered for registered when things start up. Now, blocks have additional data that's not found inside of an item. I really probably check to see what the state of the art is within Forge to see how they're migrating this, because there has been a trend to try to get rid of the metadata and this type of limited data and use more generic data storage capabilities here. But it is the case that that blocks are going to have block state associated with them. And this is the type of variable state that can occur every time a block is placed in the world, rather than having a separate instance of the block everywhere it's placed. The individual blocks can have a certain amount of block state that goes along with them, and that will be the facing that we talked about. So which direction the pumpkin, the jack-o'-lantern is facing, submodel information, and damage if something is partially damaged. So that type of information is stored in there. So I'm going to go back to my package, my main package here, and I'll create a new sub package here that I'm just going to call dot block state. Okay, block states. I think that has to be plural. Okay, so I'm going to kind of check my notes here to see if I can find. Yes, that is. Okay, so it's going to be right underneath the as a peer to blocks in it underneath the mod. All right, so inside the block states, we're going to put some stuff here, and I'll want to create my block, the JSON that corresponds to the cheese block here. And we've done this type of stuff before, but it may seem kind of silly that it's like, well, why is the JSON, I'm sorry, I put that under the source. This should be an asset. Let me undo this. Make sure we get that out of there. I was not looking what I was doing here. New package, and that will be dot block states. Okay, so now correct that should be appear to Lang models textures. All right, so this is where the JSON is going to be for the block. You say, huh? Didn't we have that down here? Well, we can have models for blocks as well, so we're going to have more than one JSON file for this cheese block. We're going to have one that corresponds to the block states, and so we're going to build that right now. And they're both going to be called cheese block.json, which may seem very confusing here, but I don't have a choice on a lot of stuff here. Open this with a JSON editor, and now I have my JSON editor open. The cheese blocks that go in block states, it's going to have empty set braces, and then it's going to have a thing called variance. Oops, variance with an A, colon, and at a very minimum, we're going to have a normal variant. And later we'll talk about possible things we could do with that, with other types of variants there. But it has to really do with the metadata that goes along with it. Now I'm going to have a model tag. Again, these are all in quotes, so they'll all show up as green. And the model will say tutorial, not tutorial, this will be CIS 452 mod 1, the name of the mod, oops, colon, cheese block. Okay, so that's a JSON file. All right, so this CIS 452 mod 1, this is the name of your mod in the resources folder, the reference Java, sorry, and it also matches this string down here. It's going to be what follows assets in your resources package. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, combining two things in one word there. And then cheese block. Well, how does it know where to look for it? It's going to look for it under models. Well, we don't have models down there just yet, but we are going to get to that point. And also note that the slides use cheese block without an underscore. You can feel free to do that as long as you're consistent with it. Some of the time we're going to use, we might use the underscore here. Sometimes we might not. It doesn't appear to break anything like it does if it's in the name of the mod, but it is fine right here. Now, about the blocks themselves, we have models.item here. I'm going to create a new package here that's going to be called .models.block, and that's going to be singular block, just like we had a singular item. Okay, I messed up and I didn't put a let's just delete that. I didn't see my dot was missing there. So inside here, create a new package, and that should be dot models, it's plural, dot block singular. So name of the mod dot models with an S dot block with no S. Now we go here. Now it's appear to item down here underneath models. So if you have a hierarchical view turned on, you should see it that way. And so we're going to tell it what the block looks like. And so I'm going to create another JSON file here to do this. And this is going to be an other JSON file. And this is going to be cheese block, whatever you named the block earlier, dot JSON. Okay, so now where's that name come from? Well, under mod blocks, here's where the name came from. Okay, it's whatever this is dot JSON. So if you want to add in new blocks, you'll need to put in the block states with that name. You'll need to put in the block with that name. But the good news is that these are going to be pretty interchangeable. What does the block look like? Now, one of the things we're going to do a little bit later on is, or pretty soon coming up, is we're going to create new models using a model editor. A lot of the material that I'm showing you actually originated with Mr. Crayfish online. And Mr. Crayfish wrote a model editor that's pretty cool. It's out on GitHub. And this model editor is pretty simplistic because it doesn't, I mean, it's a 16 by 16 by 16 model. I think it's that shape there. I may be wrong on the height. It may be a little taller, but I pretty much think it's going to be just that cube, 16 by 16 by 16. And then you go in and just fill in the pixels. You can rotate the view around. There are things that will color code vectors that will indicate what the different directions are, so you don't accidentally build your model upside down. And so we can build it that way. We don't need to use something like Maya or 3D Studio to build some sophisticated model. We have a very small number of pixels. We can just drop them into this view here, and then you can texture them. You can say, go pull out these textures and take these pixels and texture this face of the pixel with this texture. And you can make nice little looking things fairly easily with that. We're not going to do that right now. We're going to build something with the default cube model. I want my cheese to look like a cube. And so the parent is going to be block. Let me just save this real quick and reopen it with the JSON editor so I get the error checking here. And indeed it's complaining. Okay, block / cube all. Okay, so that's a default model, which you might think is a cube. And there will be textures. Oops, that has to be in quotes. Textures. And this will also be an array. But I'm going to say all here. So all faces of the cube will have the same texture. I could have separate faces for that. Think grass, for example, has a grass texture on top. It has dirt on the other sides. But I'm going to make my cheese all the way around. And so this is going to be the name of the mod, CIS 452 mod 1 for this class. In class, I'm using my mod. Okay, after the name of the mod, I'm going to say blocks. Okay, this is going to be for textures. Notice we have textures plural down here for items. We're going to have a texture plural for blocks down there as well. And the cheese block is going to be the name of the texture. Okay, I think we have it. That should take care of the model definition for it. Now we're going to need to have I think we're going to need to have a model texture for the item as well. Now if we go back down here for the model item, we see cheese.json. Well, we're going to create another one down here underneath it as well. This will be a new JSON file created underneath that there, and this will be cheese block.json. Okay, there's not going to be much to this. And the cheese block, first of all, we'll have to have these braces here. Let me save it out really quick and reopen it in the open with JSON editor so I get my error checking. Okay, now make sure we're doing the item cheese block. This is the item block that corresponds to the cheese block. And so all we need to say here is parent, and this is going to be the block reference here. So CIS 452 mod 1 colon block singular and then cheese block. Okay, that should be fine for this. So we're just pointing back to this, and we're saying go use the block model to create the item model from it. Well, that seems like a reasonable thing to do. We're going to make it kind of look the same here. There's one other thing that we're going to need to do here, and that's also to create a textures asset thing for blocks. So I'm going to create a new package underneath this. This is going to be dot after the name of the mod, and it will be textures. We already have a textures, but this is going to be blocks with plural. And so the block textures will show up down here. Where we're going to, just like we have under item, we had the cheese PNG. We're going to get the cheese block PNG, and let me go and find that for you here. Okay, go back out to Sakai. We see cheese block here under the assets folder on Sakai there. So I want my cheese block. I'll save link as, and it is defaulted to the last place that we used, which is where I store the cheese. I'm going to go up one here and pick blocks, and then store that under cheese blocks. I will now minimize this, and if I refresh in Eclipse, we see the cheese block down here. The cheese block looks kind of like that. Not terribly exciting, but it gets the job done. All right, I think that might be enough to do things. The block, it doesn't have localization in there yet. Maybe we should go ahead and take a look at what that does real quick. Back to the lang file here and the item.cheese.name. It's going to be a little harder to demonstrate how this works here, so I'm just going to say item.cheese block equals, and I'll also call it cheese. Okay, this will be a little harder to find a block in the game, unlike the item. That should take care of it. Now let's run it, and let's hope that I got everything in there correct. Now it'll come up on the other window here. Come on, there we go. Now I think I put the cheese block under building blocks. I recall where I did that. That would be found inside the block-based constructor. Okay, so how do I do that? I go back to my building blocks and go down to the bottom here, and there's my tile.cheese.block name. Oh, okay. So I am going to have to. I said item. That should have been tile. Okay, easily fixed here. Let me just. I'm going to pause the video and relaunch Minecraft here in a second. But let me just change this word to tile. I said it wasn't going to be easy to spot, but it was a very easy spot. So I will restart Minecraft. Okay, so here we are running Minecraft in the game. And I look down here at the bottom of my stuff here, and I see cheese.name. Oh, I should have said cheeseblock.name. Well, let's just kind of go with this for right now. Oops. I don't know what happened. E. Alright, and I can just place the blocks down here. Let's see. Set time 0, I think it is. Set time equals 0. Have to figure out where that command is. Okay, looking it up, it's time set 0. And that should give me just at the beginning of the day. And I'll have to see my blocks in there. Maybe time set 3000. There, that gives me a little bit brighter sun. And And that's what my cheese looks like. It's a beveled cube there that's pretty uniform yellow. Alright, so I can just drop blocks down there, and I also have the blocks in my inventory, but the localization is not correct. Easily fixed. And I should have spotted it up here. Dot name. Okay, so now we have blocks in the game. That should be enough for this video. I will see you in class.